For SiriusXM Radio, I'm Bill Bradley, and this is American Voices. This week, helping people remove unwanted tattoos.
He said, I have a carpet cleaning business, and my mother does my door-to-door prospecting because I'm too scary looking.
I think it's fair to say we've all made mistakes in our lives. But what if those mistakes were visible on your face or your arms for all to see? Like people who've been in prison, got gang-related tattoos, and now want to leave the gang and make a change in their lives, but the tattoo is still there, making it harder to find a job.
Hi, my name is Dustin from San Francisco, California. These tattoos, they really were up 2 cinder blocks on my shoulders. They were weighing me down every day. I had to do things to try to keep people from noticing that area of my body. It's something that I regret doing because it made me feel as if I was an outsider, made me feel very uncomfortable when I was around other people.
And sometimes it's not about a mistake, but about violence, like victims of human trafficking who've been tattooed against their will with barcodes. Well, my next guest, Mark Drevno, has created a training program to help professionals set up free, low-cost tattoo removal. It's called Jails to Jobs. Mark Drevno is here now with me. Thanks, Mark, for coming on American Voices.
Thank you, Senator. I'm grateful to be here with you today.
So, how did you become aware of this problem of having the tattoos brand you for the rest of your life?
Well, it started a number of years ago. I had a personal experience when I was in another life. I ran a company where we hired salespeople. And one day, a man called the office and wanted to apply for a job, but he wanted to make it real clear before he came in that he'd been incarcerated, he'd been a previous drug addict, he was still actively homeless, and he wanted to be sure that that wouldn't stop us from seriously considering him as a applicant, and I didn't see any reason why not to consider him. So he came in, and he even had a backpack with him, and he had evidence of appearing to be homeless, and we ended up hiring him because we didn't see any reason not to hire him. So I always kind of remembered that, I wonder how I could find more people like him. So I decided to create a job search workshop. I go to drug rehabilitation centers, I go to homeless shelters, and since 2009, we've offered this pre-release job search coaching workshops in jails and prisons to over 4,000 people.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, and we became a nonprofit in 2012. We're run by volunteers, and we took our handouts that we created and we turned it into a book, Jails to Jobs, 7 Steps to Becoming Employed. And it's in all the jail libraries in California. In fact, we've got a program where we give it away to any lending library at a jail or a prison in the United States.
How many have you given away?
Almost 5,000.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah. I'd go to the jails and the prisons, and I would see all the tattoos. And one day, there's this man sitting in the front row, and he had tattoos from head to toe everywhere, all around his neck, all the different labels with Old English and different ways that he could describe his neighborhood on his neck and his face and his hands. And he told me, he said, I have a carpet cleaning business, and my mother, and this was a man probably in his 30s, my mother does my door-to-door prospecting because I'm too scary looking. And I could sense his despair, his remorse, his shame. I just felt it. And I thought, what does someone do if they've changed, if they've decided they don't want to do that anymore? What do they do? So we started doing some research on the internet, and we kind of found all the low-hanging fruit. There was a number of programs we could find, and we thought, well, why don't we create a catalog, a directory at our website so people can find these places when they want to get their tattoos removed. And the easy ones were obviously easy to find, but then there's lots of them that were more difficult to find. And since we launched that directory at our website in 2013, we now have over 270 programs in 43 states. And then what we also do is we've begun to connect more with the laser device companies and the different people in the industry to become more knowledgeable and let them know that we're here. So there's dermatologists and plastic surgeons that have these machines that can be recruited and to be, asked to do some pro bono work. And, many of them are compassionate and will do that. And there's some states where the guidelines, the laws are less, like say here in California, you need to be a doctor, needs to be your medical director, a nurse practitioner or a nurse, or a physician assistant can fire the laser. But, for instance, I couldn't. But, there's other states like Nevada and Kentucky where the laws are different, where an individual can actually go and get training on how to do it, and, you or I could do it.
So what have they told you about how the tattoos made it harder for them to find work?
Well, what happens is they're visible. So they're on their hands, their forearms, their neck, their head, their face. And as that man told me in prison, I'm too scary looking. I agree with him. He was scary looking. So the intimidation can be unnerving for people. So different types of employers are concerned about what effect that might have, not only on if any customers were to see them, but also coworkers, and what it might be like for the fellow employees. So they're job stoppers. And also there's a sense of less competency when people have these types of tattoos. So you can be bright and be very capable of doing things, but when you walk in and you look a certain way, they're going to make some assumptions about your competency. So it's a terrible disability. Many of them say they're doing it because they want to be better role models for their children. They
don't want their kids getting tattoos.
No. And for many, kids can get involved in gangs as young as 12. People will recruit them, just hang around the schoolyard. So it's not something that is some big decision for most of them.
Right. So you have the gang tattoos, but then there are also the victims of human trafficking who've been forced to have tattoos as identifiers. Yes. What do people say about living with these tattoos, what it's like for them?
It's very difficult.
Must be very painful.
It's very painful. There's a program back east, the Redemption Inc., that they do cover-ups. In fact, we've offered free training to any of their sister organizations that want to do laser tattoo removal. We offer free training on how to do all that. So there's the cover-up piece, but then there's also the removal piece. And it makes a big difference if they can soften that and release all that horror that they went through.
But, when the tattoo's gone, for a lot of these people, there are still scars from the past.
Yes.
Psychological scars.
Yes.
Can you help with that? Or do you? How do they heal?
Well, the tattoo removal, that in itself can be transformational. And there's, as we all know, everybody has wounds from the past, and so much of, this being human is not easy for any of us. And, how do we move forward when it comes to our own reconciliation and healing? And what we try to do in those instances, because if they don't have programs that they're already working with, we offer referrals. They're trying to heal themselves.
Sure.
So it's more, for those types of situations, we offer referrals.
So specifically, how do you remove a tattoo?
It's a laser light that hits the skin, and it breaks the particles up. They match a certain type of beam with the color of the ink, and then your body flushes it away, and maybe there's several appointments that are needed.
Is it painful?
There's some things that can be used, like ice rollers, so you can put ice on it ahead of time. Some of the programs have where it blows very cold, refrigerated air on your skin that can be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's more painful than getting the tattoo.
So can you tell us about some of the people and their lives and what happened with the tattoo removal and what they said the experience was and what they're doing now?
Yeah. One of my favorite stories was of Steve. And he came to a program with a very large tattoo on his neck. It said Shadow. He was unable to get a decent paying job, and he ended up working at a car dealership as detailing cars. He'd been previously incarcerated and whatnot. And so anyway, he started to go to the program to get his tattoo removed, and as the tattoo began to disappear, Steve commented about how his attitude started to get a little brighter, and he worked hard there washing cars, and one of the managers there suggested that he try his hand at selling cars because Steve thought he could be a good car salesman. And it turned out he did. I mean, he started selling these cars, and he actually sold enough cars in one week to break the record there at the dealership. So, and it was from getting this tattoo removed made him safer, if you will, or people more comfortable to just talk to him.
So, there are a lot of different kinds of people out there who need a lot of different kinds of help. But looking back on your own life, why do you think this particular problem spoke to you?
Well, that's a good question. I one of the things that I'm reminded of is, my dear mother. My father died when I was 19. He died of a massive heart attack, and my mother was 43 years old, left with 9 kids, 8 of them still living at home. And she had to go back and get a job. And I just saw her re-enter the workforce and how well she did. She worked till she was 75 years old, and the population that she served were disadvantaged people. She worked at the local technical school, and she placed a lot of kids in jobs that couldn't find jobs otherwise. She placed a lot of kids that had gang affiliations, and I just saw the relationship that she had with these people and how they changed. And I always remembered that. And I always remembered how my dear mother, Jean Drevno, never turned her back on anybody. She was always there for them. And I actually feel more joy in my life and feel more completeness in my life by giving away books on how to get a job and going into jails and prisons and doing workshops and helping people get their tattoos removed than in the old days when I would spend time thinking about how I could make more money.
Sounds to me, Mark, like your mother passed the baton to you and you've taken it and run.
I think you're right.
So glad you joined us to tell us about the work you're doing. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Senator. Grateful for the time.
Everyone deserves the chance to try to make a better life, and Mark helps them do that. You can also check out his book. It's called Tattoo Removal, Establishing a Free or Low-Cost Community-Based Program, a how-to guide. To find out more, visit us on Facebook. It's facebook.com/American Voices with Senator Bill Bradley.